Podcasting since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network. kingofpodcasts.com.
Bonnie Blue wants to keep scoring while Short Kings on Tinder keep striking out.
We're all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the King of Podcasts.
Welcome to the program. This is King of Podcasts here with you. kingofpodcasts.com is the website where everything you can find on the show's at. You can find the show at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, among other platforms. Thanks for listening in, finding the show, as you always do. So OnlyFans models. The trend has increased. We now have another suspect OnlyFans model now getting into the sex stunt craze. And Annie Knight, we're going to introduce you to her on the program. But also how OnlyFans is really just optimizing their opportunities with these sex stunts and how it is really amplifying the brand. Not in a great way, but, they don't care. So where do we go to first? Well, let's start with a story that came in from Us Magazine or Us Weekly, which is a magazine I can't say, man, it's been over 15 years since I used to go ahead and pick up a copy of the magazine when it was still a thing. I haven't done that in a long time. But yeah, that used to be the thing I used to go and pick up gossip rags, right? Go and pick up Us Weekly and National Enquirer. And I really enjoyed doing that. It was fun. And it didn't cost overly that much going into the supermarkets to go and pick it up like the week before. So I could stay right in on what was going on. So Us Weekly has an exclusive story about how harmful is the OnlyFans competitive sex trend. How harmful is the OnlyFans competitive sex trend? And in the story, they feature three of the notables on OnlyFans, which is, we already know, Bonnie Blue, Lily Phillips, and now Annie Knight. So just 2 weeks ago, we did not talk about this on the program because, I'm not going to just talk about Bonnie Blue every time or OnlyFans models every time on this program, even though it does spike some listens, right? I'll admit, when I do an episode like this, the numbers go up. And I appreciate all of you that check in the show for this, but I will never do a podcast series where I'm just going to go ahead and stick to doing what will always work, what will always guarantee me listeners. Because if I did that, then I would just be doing it as a job instead of enjoying this podcast as a passion project, which is what it is. Anyway, Annie Knight is an Australian creator, and she made headlines earlier this month when she slept with 583 men in 6 hours. She was looking to go and beat UK star Bonnie Blue, who claimed in January to have had sex with 1,057 men in 12 hours. Now, Knight is 28 years old, and she says that doing 583 in a day is quite a lot, so I was a bit worried I was going to really struggle with it because the most I've done was 24 in a day. But honestly, it was fine. I was shocked by how easy it was. Sexologist Logan Levkoff talks to Us Weekly and says the way this trend is set up, it seems to be the least equitable, healthy way to look at non-monogamous sex. No shit. Quote, sex is supposed to be, in a perfect world, pleasurable, consensual, intimate, and connected. And obviously the things that make sex all those descriptors. But we lose a lot of them. We are in a competitive sex situation. So you're just saying something that porn stars for decades have already known. Sex as a challenge becomes goal-oriented. It is certainly not pleasure-based. But see, this is where we are in society, is that there are plenty of women that might not be getting so laid so much because they're trying to look for a relationship, but then the delusion that they're looking for in a guy that they want through dating apps or declining every guy possible, or just not even declining, but shaming any guy that tries to approach them. Yeah, of course nothing is going to happen with them. So sex becomes a depravity. You're just sex deprived. But meanwhile, there are plenty of women that are sex healthy that are just in bad relationships themselves. Like Logan, let's not worry so much about the women in this competitive sex stunt culture. How about the women that are not getting sex at all or just having empty sex? Because that's not pleasure-based either. Let's be clear about this. Yes, sex as a challenge becomes goal-oriented. It is not certainly pleasure-based. Logan, it's not pleasure-based either for some of these women that are with some other guys that they hope to go ahead and make money from, they get some status from. For how many of these women that we see that they say want a guy that is a certain height, a certain income status, a certain status in general, and a certain look. They might be fascinated by the fact of having that sex with that person, but really there is everything for intent, right? It's premeditated. That the woman wants something from the guy if they're looking for a guy like this. Because even when a woman talks about she wants a guy that's particularly attractive or rich or tall, it's because of what they will get from them. It's not even anything about the guy itself or the pleasure of being validated by that guy or being pleasured by that guy. For the guy, it is pleasure-based because he doesn't care. Because he doesn't feel like there's anything to it for him at the end of the day for him. With you. So he doesn't care. And he'll just move on. So for the guys, those are guys who might be competitive themselves, but you know what? It is pleasure-based for them. Isn't it funny how it works that way? So this sexologist, I would correct it, okay? Sex as a challenge is goal-oriented. You're absolutely correct. For men, it is pleasure-based. For women, it is not. I think that's pretty clear. So now OnlyFans stars have sometimes opted to put protections in place, making men wear condoms or mandating testing for sexually transmitted diseases, but there are no rules or regulations. And remember, Bonnie Blue even said and publicly said that the first guy she did raw. So every other guy that would have protected themselves wasn't protected at all because of that first guy. Now, this sexologist also talks about lack of lubrication, tearing, all those things create a perfect storm if someone has an STI for it to spread. Pretty obvious as well. Really Captain Obvious right here. But this is what she's trying to go and make a point of. So, Annie Knight herself has suffered injuries and health complications as a result of her work. Days after completing the challenge on May 18th, she told Us Weekly that she had been hospitalized and was undergoing medical testing because she suffers from endometriosis. But then she says her body just hit a wall after pulling off the event. And the creator also pointed out that she had been simultaneously purchasing her dream home, which left her exhausted. Her condition became worse. Oh, I'm sorry. So some, multi-million-dollar mansion that you got and all the work to get that ready, like getting the movers to go into that. Like she's not physically doing any moving. She's signing papers to go and get this new place. For money, with the money that she made off of screwing 583 people. Men. And also saying that in this story, that hormonal imbalances can cause irregular and heavy periods, which is what she's been dealing with since the event. Then they talked to a psychotherapist from New York and Washington, D.C., saying the stunts can lead to feelings of emptiness, anxiety, and a complete lack of sexual desirability. Okay, well, and this person's name is Jonathan Alper. All right, well, Jonathan, okay, it can cause a complete lack of sexual desirability and lead to feelings of emptiness. The women that are doing this already feel empty inside anyway. Okay? They're basically porn stars. If they're going to go ahead and do this sex stunt, it's because they're seeking attention. There is emptiness in themselves. There's a need of fulfillment in the worst kind of way. Another obvious thing they say here, quote, there could be some trauma that comes from that. It's a performance. How about the trauma that came before them? You're telling me that someone of normal sound mind and body is willing to go and go through a gangbang like that? Can we just clarify that the trauma came well before this? But of course, we're not going to say that. So this Jonathan Albert goes on to say that in the moment, they might feel like they're special. But after, I think they're probably feeling worthless. They've relied so heavily on this external approval, and when all this is gone, they just feel really empty, confused about what their actual worth and value is. And I think they'll have difficulty forming healthy, authentic bonds for people. No, they're going to have that already because they're going to try to become famous. So nobody's going to even think about that. Now, we know about Lily Phillips, who also went into the competitive sex trend in December 2024. These are some of these women we've already documented on this program about this. So she felt guilty that not all men had a similar experience at her event. Ultimately, slept with 100 people that time she tried to get into it for the first time. Quote, it was not for the weak. If I'm honest, it was hard. And of course, she did a documentary about it. And then they go on to say here in the story that not only may the influencers experience these emotions, but the men participating as well, particularly those who have not been intimate before. As part of the competitive sex challenge, some OnlyFans stars have set goals to sleep with a specific number of virgins. Lefkoff warned that this could create a very uncomfortable power dynamic between the creator and the newbie. And if you look at the rack of bodies or be someone's first experience, then that's not really about them, is it? No. But why are there so many guys that are lining up to be with these girls when they are offering sex? Because there's a lot of difficulty, first of all, just to go and get sex these days from particular women anyway. But we also have to consider the fact that the guys out there are not able to go ahead and successfully do well trying to date. And any which way they try to do that. And then on top of that, the bigger problem is that these guys were not raised, in some cases, with enough male bonding, with enough of a bond from a guy that is the father, a brother, cousin, uncle, something. Another role model for that person, for that guy. A guy who, so you can see another guy who properly knows how to go and date, who is a masculine man, who has particular traits to know how to be a gentleman, to be brave, to be, protective, to give all the traits that a woman would want, to where they would want to go ahead and be with them and then start a relationship, which it would at least finally lead to sex. Because most guys that are young, probably won't be able to get sex right away from just trying to go and hook up. The hookup culture doesn't come until maybe after like the first initial attempts of trying to date and get into relationships. Because that's been changing like that a lot. Because you at least have to start somewhere before you go right into situationships. It just doesn't happen right overnight. You also talked to Steven Snyder, a sex therapist in New York City, that says there's an endless supply of young women online trying to turn sex appeal into cash. So it's understandable that a young, desirable woman killing the competition on OnlyFans by going viral online might feel empowered. Quote, being a sexually appealing woman is one of the oldest forms of economic power in the world. Yes, the oldest profession. Thank you. But, quote, I hate to see a young person have to turn to their sexuality into a circus sideshow to make a living. Well, then you're talking about every TikTok model that's on there delivering thirst traps at 60 seconds of video on my FYP page, or every other guy's FYP page for that matter. Now, back to that Logan Levkoff. She said also that social media, let's be honest, is like kind of a drug. It is, more or less. The more attention we get, the more we want it. We feed off of it. But it's definitely not a way to heal if you're looking for some peace and mindfulness and some sense of resolution. And there was a girl who was actually talking about the fact that the biggest change with social media that really did amplify things was when TikTok developed the algorithm for the FYP, and how we have this constant cycle of just flipping to the next video and to watch something else we want to watch. Well, we can watch. With the opportunity for many, many people, millions of people around the world, to be able to go and see what that video is, if you get it in the right place at the right time. But it's very common now to see all that. But for some of these women, it's also not even so much about trying to fill some emptiness or just a brokenness emotionally, some emotional damage that came from trauma from years past, from being maybe even at a young age to now. And it's all these early to mid to late 20-year-olds that are all these women that are doing this because they're just using their bodies. Now, we can talk about the same thing here for those that have gone into strip clubs or gone into the world's oldest profession and some kind of prostitution, or have just hooked up with guys just to go and get something just to score whatever they want. So that is still a normal thing. And there's that going on here. But in social media and this OnlyFans environment, the potential of making money is really what is the bigger problem more than anything else. Because we know if women that did get into prostitution or went into strip clubs or, champagne rooms, body rub salons, all these kind of places, massage parlors, what have you, they don't stay in this for long because, you might make some money, but it's not like a consistent living, and also the kind of work you have to put into it. For these women, these stunts are just rampant. They can make a whole lot of money because of how it can be filmed, it can be utilized, and there's so much content that can be recorded and created off of it that they could go ahead and milk from their fan base forever if they want to. Think about that. Now, in the same vein, Tim Stokely actually spoke this week with Wire magazine, and he's the OnlyFans founder. He says now that His site has turbocharged sex work, but now he's targeting a whole influencer economy. So because of the money that's being made off of sex, he now wants to go and build off of a new platform called Subs, helping creators earn more money using long-form video calls, and a suite of AI features. So this is the guy that created the OnlyFans model. He's not there anymore, but he's moving on to do other things here to create another environment for him to go ahead and milk off of. But it was his algorithm that contributed to the delinquency of all these OnlyFans models and where we are today. Because if it's not just young, beautiful women, it's all celebrity women as well doing the same thing, all realizing that. Because it was on that platform, even though they're trying to go ahead and make something about trying to create some platform that was just a platform that now is becoming more mainstream, or at least trying to make mainstream, as all these kind of sites will always start off with. It always starts with the fact that, well, this is what changes porn. It takes on porn first, and then it becomes something more legitimate after that. So this creator-driven platform has become famous for mainstreaming influencer porn, transforming the sex worker economy into a robust business. And during the pandemic, we all know how this all worked out. But now we're moving forward into even more. So creators are selling sex, especially dependent on X, to boost subscriptions on their OnlyFans pages. Others sharing shared desires of wanting a new platform that's more brand friendly. So there's all these things that this guy's going to try to recreate again with Subs. But it's the same thing going over and over, that he's creating a player platform that is going to contribute to that. So now he has built a new platform built on core principles of freedom, visibility, and more ways to earn. And he wants to make it where creators have true ownership over their audience and growth, about building real careers, not chasing trends. Now, I did not know this part about Tim Stokely, but this is not surprising to me here. But before he ran OnlyFans, he ran two websites, Customs for You and Glam Worship, modestly successful softcore campsites. Isn't it always something about the internet that always has to go and take away from porn? It just, everything started from porn. Listen, if I told you how some of these big search engines or all these big tech companies have been built on the debauchery of porn to start. The internet was built on porn and succeeded because of porn. Make that clear. A lot of your major tech oligarchs that are out there, they probably had some money somewhere on the internet where the websites they might not have been associated with, but they might have funded, were porn sites. It's always like that. It's true. It's very true. Now, Subs is going to be featuring both safe for work and adult content. Creators will take 80% earnings cut. And Stokely says he'll be clear that with global regulations, adult content is always going to be paywall behind subscriptions and DMs. And there'll be new personalized features, including collaborator revenue splits and refer earnings, among other things. And they're also looking to go and use AI offerings like auto captioning, growth insights, to help creators scale faster and personalize content recommendations. Anyway, there's that. So we're going to see another site come to the forefront in Subs. We're going to hear about that somewhere. And trust me, something will be heard about that soon enough. We know that's going to happen. The Village Voice put out a story, and they talked about how much these OnlyFans stars are actually making on their content, of these that are doing the sex stunts. Very good question. So Annie Knight, we talked about, the Australian OnlyFans star, she also has a podcast of her own. And she had a recent podcast of her show, Annie Knight Unhinged. And she talked about the financial costs of doing this kind of stunts in a recent episode of her podcast. So she talks about the fact that people don't realize it's actually so expensive to do something like this, because obviously I had to pay for the videographer, assistants, photographer, security, the venue hire. I pay for the condoms, the balaclavas, the wristbands, and said it talked about probably spent her about $10,000 to go and do, but it was worth it to her to invest that kind of money to the event, claiming she will make her money back. Yeah, of course. $10,000, small investment to get the money back she's going to make on the content. That's true. She expects when she releases the content, she'll make like the money tenfold, hopefully more. She says that so OnlyFans will not allow their stars to sell one video with all 583 men, but she can break them into shorter videos and make money off of each one. Yeah, they're going to do that anyway. Pretty obvious. She also said doing 583 guys in a day is quite a lot. I was also a bit worried I was going to really struggle with it, because most I've done was 24 in a day, but honestly it was fine. I was shocked by how easy it was, she said. And She says that the cost of the event was a little higher than she realized. And before she did this, apparently she talked to Bonnie Blue to learn about what to do with this event. So she says, quote, "It took a lot of organization. I actually spoke to Bonnie Blue to get some tips from her because she obviously done similar stuff before. I hired out a swingers club because it was the best venue for what we were after. We really needed a huge room with a bed in it. But it was not clear what they said about what other tips that Bonnie Blue offered Annie Knight, but that's what she did. Learn from her." The other story we got from here is from The Independent that actually just came out today as I record. Teens are now being seduced by online sex influencers. So the idea of the next girl that could be the next Bonnie Blue or Annie Knight or Lily Phillips, that is now becoming a new thing in focus here. And there's a reporter here that says that they look at how the making of the femisphere as toxic as the manosphere for our youngest generation. They try to say that Bonnie Blue isn't a problem, it's the men who want to sleep with her. So this reporter spoke with students in high school and mid-teenagers, all aware of OnlyFans. They said they have thought about it a lot, and they talked about it with friends, discussing in detail how many followers they'd have to accumulate in order to create sexual content and post online for cash, popularity, and fame. So looks like there was these teenage women that we're talking to about what OnlyFans meant to them and what they thought about the influencers or creators on these platforms. They talked to a 14-year-old, Ebony, saying that number is 4 million and probably 1 million followers. Maybe because then you could have sex like once, maybe, and then get a Boohoo deal or a Sephora deal and be set for life. They go on to say that OnlyFans acts as something of a fame equalizer, allowing unknown individuals to rise to prominence and build a large fan base. Subscription costs varying on the popularity of creator, and more importantly, how explicit their content is. Obviously, a celebrity is much easier to go and get famous, get noticed, and monetize themselves. They talk about the singer Lily Allen, who actually is reported around 1,000 subscribers, paying about, say 10 pounds a month, but that would be more like, like $15 a month? And she's probably making about $10,000 monthly for publishing pictures of her feet. Former Atomic Kitten singer Carrie Katona told a tabloid that OnlyFans made her a millionaire again after her bankruptcy. The half-sister of supermodel Kate Moss, Lottie Moss, claims to be making 30,000 pounds a month on the site. I want to say that's, $35,000 a month US on the site? Crazy. Creators like Bonnie Blue, Lily Phillips, and Annie Knight have become globally known for performing sexual stunts that, until recently, would have only been conceived in the farthest extremes of pornography. They go through the stories of these three women and then ask the question, if the global press and adults at dinner parties are talking about this, guess what? So are the kids at school, including tweens and young teens. What's frightening and what isn't the case with traditional pornography is the total normalization of the commodification of a person's body, sexuality, and privacy. They talked to a 15-year-old, Emma, says her number would be roughly, $2.5 million and 2 million followers. That's how much I'd want in order to go to OnlyFans and sell myself. That way you'd be set for life and have no worries. It would sort of be F-off money, you know? People could call you a slut, but it'd be like, I'm rich and famous, and you have to work a job and live with your parents. I win. And then they talked to some boys about this idea that one 14-year-old says he follows Fabian Sasser on YouTube, TikTok. He's rich off of OnlyFans. How much would you have to pay me to go on OnlyFans when I'm older? About $15,000 US, if the girls are hot. I think my mom would be annoyed, but I think she'd be okay once I bought her a new kitchen. She hates her kitchen. These are all British people, by the way. The Independent is a British publication. The language on OnlyFans mirrors the way people talk about other social media platforms. Users aren't performers but creators. And many teens insist that OnlyFans is different because from porn, it's ultimately less seedy, precisely because they keep hearing how celebrities are on it and how easy it is to make a fortune with just a few sexy stunts. Bam. Porn used to be dirty, but the more you make it more clean and antiseptic and normalize it, more young people are going to be interested in the idea of this. And they'll stay at home making OnlyFans videos. Or even the thought of doing some kind of a sex stunt like this right here. 50-year-old Maya says, I don't think about OnlyFans like porn at all. I know it involves some sex, but it's just completely different. OnlyFans people are more like normal people, especially girls. It's just like making extra money as a side hustle. So at the moment, they talk about how the money that's being made by some of these women right now, Lily Phillips is reportedly worth about $2.5 million. Annie Knight, $2.4 million. Well, actually more like $3 million. Wounds and sore bits heal, but bills and insecurity linger. And they ask the question, what's a bit of a discomfort if it means you'll never worry about money again? It's so much more than we ever thought. And they talk about the fact here in the story that we fail to notice that many boys stewing in loneliness and sadness were turning to dodgy influencers offering easy answers. Likewise, a generation of girls didn't stumble accidentally on the idea that their value lies in their sex appeal and showing off their bodies to the highest bidder. Yes, we've already made points about the fact that, listen, passport bros and the idea of that, there's something to be said about the concept of passport bros. But influencers that kind of peddle that idea, or the influencers that peddle ideas about what they should be doing as an alpha male, that kind of mindset, probably doesn't help either. About the idea, like, if you want to just find a girl, be rich, be successful, have money, so you can have sex with whoever you want. That's how you're going to get women, just going to be successful and improve yourself. While some of that is good, the other part is just like for the intent of what they're trying to get. That's the part I really have a problem with. At the same time, they're saying here that the dodgy influencers, they're talking about like the Tates of the world, and the Andrew Tristan Tates and, the Fresh and Fits and all this kind of stuff. That's what we're talking about when it comes to the alpha males, the Rollo Tomasis, all those. Trust me, I know because I've read those books. I know what they're talking about, right? But at the same time, she says right here, it's true that girls are not stumbling accidentally on the idea that their value lies in their sex appeal and showing off their bodies to the highest bidder. But it's not even for the same intent anymore. It's like, yeah, it might be to get ahead or try to, like, it used to be like this was a thing like just to get through college. Just kind of work your way through to get to the career that you want to be. It's not even about that anymore. This has been glorified to the point where now women think this is a career and this is early retirement. And the thought process of this is ridiculous. So they say in here now, like the manosphere, the equally toxic femosphere is now emerging that didn't appear out of nowhere. So they say in the story here that the last 2 decades have been saturated with sex and celebrity. You have the Kim Kardashians that have hit payday. Millions of women right now working in hospitals, schools, labs, and offices were cast as life's real losers. We haven't just elevated sex and celebrity. In some cases, we made them the ultimate goals, eclipsing any seemingly ordinary aspirations young people used to possess. Well, remember, some of these influencers are out here, they don't have any talent. Let's keep that clear, too. How many women do we see out here that said they made money off of OnlyFans? Like Sophie Rain, I think, they said made like $43 million on OnlyFans so far. Besides being attractive, what else does she do? Nothing. There's no talent to any of these women. For the most part, none whatsoever. But they're engaging with, with what they have, with their youth and beauty for the time that they have, which is a very short time. It's not going to be as long as you think. But they're going with that. And that both men and women that are in this same case, especially the younger generations, they're feeding off the same dark coin. The worst ideas and impulses, the Madonna versus whore trope, is writ large of manosphere lore. While there are bad girls, the OnlyFans type used to be, and good girls were more suited to marriage and motherhood. The biggest problem is that you have your casual sex that's being eliminated altogether. You have women going behind paywalls who are not going to have sex. And if they are, they're going to try to go the route of going into a sex stunt, only for the purpose of making content. That's it. At what point do we get to that part where it's just a lot of creators that decide, we're just going to have sex with somebody just to create content? And it's not even going to matter who the person that they have sex with is. So that's the biggest problem we have right now, is that this kind of thing is a regular thing going on. We're going a little bit long tonight, folks. There's a lot of things to go and cover that I want to make sure I get into tonight. The next thing I got to go and bring up here real quick is an update on the Blake Lively, Justin Baldonia situation, which, the movie Ends With Us. I talked about it, was it last May or the May before? No, it was like last May, right? Over a year ago that I talked about the movie because it came out with these two. And we have news about this here because now a judge has ruled that the emotional distress claims against Justin Baldonia are officially dead. So that goes on today, where the lawsuit that decided the actress claims for emotional distress are dead. Baldoni's lawyers filed a motion to compel her turn over her medical records, and Blake Lively was fighting the move back. Judge Lewis Lyman wrote this morning that the motion to compel is denied based on plaintiff's representation that the relevant claims will be withdrawn, and her request that because the parties have agreed to dismiss Miss Lively's 10th and 11th causes of action, the court exercises its inherent authority under Rule 15 to dismiss them without prejudice is denied without prejudice to renewal. The court will also preclude Lively from offering any other evidence of emotional distress. So that whole case right there gets shot down. She's abandoned the claims, and now it's basically like a dismissal. All of it's done. So whatever kind of accusation she wanted to go get after Justin Baldoni, done. So this guy's going to get away with it. I mean, he didn't do anything, I think, necessarily to her, but let's just say Justin Baldoni, the male feminist here, he's not any better than anybody else. Let's just make that clear, too. He's a scumbag in his own right. And both, honestly, both of them are scumbags. But it was a good movie nevertheless. I did appreciate what was the story that was actually being told in that, which was good for the fodder for this program. So thank you for that. My other story that came out was about Tinder. Yes. There's a new thing with Tinder right now that it's only for premium users, by the way. So you have to be paying, the $500 or so much model, of the pricing, I guess, $30 to $50, $500? I don't know what you're paying per month. But apparently, Tinder now added a height feature to its search bar. A feature that many did not like, as it's something similar to someone asking their weight. So now you can see it in the Tinder settings premium discovery section, allowing users to specify minimum and maximum heights for their matches. And people are commenting on social media, it's over for short men. What are they going to do now? I thought it was a normal thing to have the height. I mean, I remember seeing height being in there in the profiles of many different sites. I'm thinking Plenty of Fish, I'm thinking Match. They all had a place where they had height and weight. And actually, on many dating sites early on, we used to have a thing where at least you'd have the height and then you would have to go and give body type. Of course, they want to make you put the weight down there, but it was like that for a while. The Daily Mail talked to Tinder about this, and a spokesperson explained that we're always listening to what matters most for our Tinder users. We're testing the pay for height preference as a great example of how we're building with urgency, clarity, and focus. And as part of a broader focus or effort to help people connect more intentionally on Tinder, they want to prioritize user outcomes move fast, and learn fast. But yes, short kings are screwed on this. One person actually writes about the fact when it comes to Tinder, I certainly wouldn't have met my wife if this filter existed. I'm short, 5'5". Even with a basic filter for 5'7" or more, I would have been immediately dismissed. God bless my fellow short people. I'm glad I got away with this. This is also like a current trend they're talking about with ChatGPT, where they're asking about men if they're lying about their height. Quote, girls are using ChatGPT to see if men are lying about their height on dating apps. You upload 4 images, use proportions and environment to estimate height, and then what they're doing is using ChatGPT to go and check on these images to see if the heights are very similar, and that the estimates that were being done with what they did here was that the estimates of height of the people based on the pictures were within an inch up or down from the actual height of the person. So that's a new thing to go through as well. Forgot to mention this before as well. OnlyFans now is looking to go ahead and do an initial public offering. So Leonid Radvinsky right now, who owns 75% ownership of OnlyFans, wants to sell a platform, and he wants to go and put out shares for it. So keep that in mind coming up soon. OnlyFans, by the way, is worth $8 billion, nearly 6 times its 2022 EBITDA. Ambitious compared to competitors like Patreon, who saw their valuation drop when they try to go ahead and go IPO. But OnlyFans, because of their adult content, has a high valuation. So their initial stock price, when they go up on the market, will be very high if people want to go and do that. That's according to LA Weekly that put up that story. Finally, one of the story to talk about is from Mexico. That dating apps are being tied to U.S. citizens that are kidnapped in Mexico. Officials at the U.S. Embassy and Consulates of Mexico have confirmed several reports of Americans being kidnapped by individuals they met on a dating app. So please make sure to watch this out for this, folks. If you are going to Mexico anytime soon, if you're looking to visit, also don't go to Acapulco for what I'm being told, because the mafia has taken over there since past the hurricane that happened there. So the U.S. Consulate in Guadalajara issued a warning about incidents occurring in the recent months in the areas of Puerto Vallarta and Nuevo Nayarit. Quote, victims and their families in the U.S. have been at times been extorted for large sums of money to secure the release. Be aware this type of violence is not limited to one geographic area. So if you're going to Mexico, be careful if you're going there for dating. And if you're going to meet someone there, meet only in public places, yada, yada. Yeah, we don't need to go and deal with that. We don't need you to get caught up in the cartel. I can't even believe that's actually a thing here. But again, look at what we're doing right now. Look at how bad things are. You have people that are, and people, I mean, we're talking about young people, being admirers of OnlyFans for the women, for the young girls. Think about the fact of how much money they can make in a short amount of time just by putting their body out there, and then they can just go and get on there, do it for a little while, and then they'll make the money and be fine. Or there's the guys that are also admiring the fact of what kind of women are on there and how they don't value themselves as much being on OnlyFans if they thought they could do something with that. But then again, we have the toxicity on both sides. Well, the women that want to be on OnlyFans become creators and make money because of making money. And then the guys that are going out to different areas to go ahead and date because they can't find the women that are worth being here because of the delusion of trying to make money and maybe trying to become OnlyFans models themselves. Those women becoming OnlyFans models. So what's left for the guys? I mean, how bad does it have to get for people? For young people for young women to continue to think that OnlyFans is a good thing and to be encouraged by some of these models that are out there, young and beautiful, that are making millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, celebrity or not. And for the guys that, because they can't hook up with any of these girls because, they're being subjected to subscriptions instead of even getting a chance to go and hook up with them. But no matter what, it's money that's involved. So why even bother with that? And if they try to go anywhere, well, they get picked on for being short kings, or they go to Mexico to get kidnapped by the cartel. That sounds like a great idea. I mean, I thought, you don't want to just go there for tacos or just go for the viral drinks out there, right? I thought you want to go there and get a little depraved and debaucherous.